She only wanted milk for her baby, but one wrong message sent her into the arms of the man who would change her life forever. It was past midnight when Ella Roberts sat on her narrow bed, her hands trembling around her phone. Her tiny apartment was silent, except for the soft, uneven breaths of her baby 5-month-old Ava sleeping in a small crib beside her. A single light bulb buzzed overhead, throwing weak yellow light on the cracked walls. Empty bottles and unpaid bills sat quietly on the table, watching her break. Ava whimpered, and Ella lifted her gently, rocking her against her chest. "Shh, baby. I know you're hungry." She looked down at the empty tin of baby formula and felt her throat tighten. There wasn't a single scoop left. She had worked all day cleaning offices and had only $6 left, not enough to buy a new tin. She had borrowed from neighbors, from co-workers, everyone she could. She stared at her phone, tears gathering in her tired eyes. Then, slowly, she typed a message to her friend, Clara, the one person who sometimes helped. "Is greater than Clara. Please, I hate to ask again. I need $30 for formula. I'll pay you back next week. Ava's milk is finished." Her thumb hovered over send, and then she pressed it. Seconds passed. Then her phone buzzed. "I think you texted the wrong person." Ella blinked. "What?" she whispered. She checked the message. Oh no, she had typed one wrong digit. She had just sent her desperate message to a stranger. Flushed with embarrassment, she typed fast. "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. Wrong number. Please ignore." She placed her phone aside, sighed heavily, and kissed Ava's forehead. "We'll figure something out, baby girl. Mommy always does." She tried to sleep, but Ava's small cries returned. The sound tore her apart. Then another buzz. "Are you okay? I can help." Ella frowned. "No, thank you. You're a stranger. Please, don't worry." Another message came quickly. "Smart. But your message didn't sound like a scam. It sounded real. Please, just tell me, does your baby have milk tonight?" Ella hesitated, staring at the screen. Her pride told her to ignore it, but her heart broke when she looked at Ava's tiny face. "No," she typed finally. "She doesn't." There was no reply for a few minutes. Then, "Is greater than. Don't panic." What's the brand name of her formula? Ella hesitated again. This was insane. Who was this person? "Why do you want to know?" "Because I'm sending some to you. I promise I mean no harm." She almost laughed in disbelief. "No, thank you. I don't take help from strangers." Then came one last message. "Not every stranger wants something in return. Some just remember what hunger feels like." She read that 3 times. Something about it felt real. Still, she said nothing. She turned off her phone and held Ava close until they both fell asleep. The next morning, when she opened her door to leave for work, she froze. Right there on her doormat was a neat brown box. No note, no name, but taped on top was the exact formula brand Ava drank. She looked around the hallway, heart pounding. No one. Only silence. She picked it up and carried it inside. Her hands shook as she opened it. Inside were 3 tins of formula, a few packs of diapers, and a folded paper that said, "For nights that should never be hungry." Ella sat on the floor and cried. She didn't know who R was. She didn't know how or why. But that morning, for the first time in weeks, Ava drank until she fell asleep with milk on her lips, and Ella whispered, "Thank you, whoever you are." That night, she finally replied, "Thank you, but I don't know who you are." "My name's Ryan. Just Ryan." "Why did you help me?" "Because someone once helped my mum. I just wanted to pass it on." "I can't pay you back." "Then promise to be kind to someone else one day. That's enough." Ella smiled, even though he couldn't see it. That night, she slept peacefully, her first real rest in months. She didn't know that this small act of kindness was just the beginning of a love story that would rewrite her life. The next morning, Ella's boss, Mrs. Johnson, called her into her tiny office at the cleaning company. "Ella," she said, without even looking up from her papers, "one of our big clients called and asked for you by name." "By name?" Ella repeated, confused. Mrs. Johnson nodded. "Yes, I was surprised too. Said they saw your name on the worker list and want only you. Good pay, private house, uptown area." Ella frowned. "Did they say how they know me?" "No, Just that you come highly recommended." The woman smiled slightly. "You're lucky, Ella. Those rich types rarely ask for the same cleaner twice." Ella nodded slowly. "I'll go. Thank you, ma'am." The next day, a black car waited for her outside her small apartment building. The driver opened the door politely. She clutched her old cleaning bag and stepped inside, trying not to stare at the shiny seats. After 20 minutes of silence, the car turned into a quiet street lined with trees and stopped in front of a wide white house. The gate opened automatically. When Ella stepped out, she froze. The house looked like something from a dream. Clean glass windows, roses climbing along the front porch, a small fountain at the side. Before she could knock, the door opened. A man stood there, tall, dressed in a grey shirt and jeans. His hair was a little messy, his eyes warm. "Ella Roberts?" he asked kindly. "Yes, sir," she said softly, gripping her bag. "I'm Ryan," he said, smiling. "Please, come in." Inside, the house smelled of coffee and lemon soap. It was quiet, not empty quiet, but peaceful. Ryan led her to the kitchen. "Would you like some water before you start?" She blinked, surprised. None of her clients had ever offered her that. I'm fine, sir," he smiled. "All right. The supplies are under the sink. You can start wherever you like. I'll just be working in my study." She nodded and got to work, scrubbing and polishing until her back ached. As she cleaned, she heard faint music from his study soft piano, the kind that calms the soul. When she went to empty the trash, Ryan was on a video call. He looked serious, professional, almost like a man used to being listened to. But when he noticed her, he smiled again, nodding politely before continuing. Something about that smile felt familiar. Later that night, when she got home, she fed Ava and lay beside her on the bed. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. "Did you have a good day?" Her heart skipped. "The same number. You again. How do you know I worked today?" "I'm just guessing. But I have a feeling today was better than most." She frowned, smiling despite herself. It was okay. The new client was kind. Good. Kindness is rare. Her fingers paused before typing. "Why do you keep texting me, Ryan?" There was a pause. Then, "Because you make the world feel a little lighter." She stared at that message for a long time before turning off her phone. The next day, she returned to the house. Ryan met her at the door with 2 mugs of tea. "One's for you," he said. "It's just tea, not charity." She smiled shyly and took it. "Thank you." As she cleaned, they talked little things at first. Weather, music, his garden. Then, while she was dusting the window, she whispered, "Why are you so nice to me?" He looked up from his laptop. "Shouldn't I be? Most people aren't." "Then most people are missing out," he said simply. That made her laugh quietly. He grinned. "See, that's better. You should laugh more often." A week later, he asked if she could bring Ava along. "You can't leave her alone all day," he said gently. "Bring her. I'll set up a small corner for her." Ella hesitated, but finally agreed. The next day, Ava sat on a soft playmat in the living room, her chubby hands grabbing toys Ryan had bought. He peeked out from his study often, making funny faces at her until the baby squealed with laughter. "You're good with her," Ella said once, smiling. He shrugged. "I had a niece once. Babies like me. I think it's because I don't treat them like porcelain dolls. And now there's She laughed softly. "You really are different, Ryan." "I hope that's a compliment," he said, grinning. That day, something changed. The way he looked at her lingered a little longer. The way she smiled back carried warmth. Neither said it out loud. But something had started, gentle, real, and new. It was a normal Tuesday when Ella's heart broke again. She had come early to clean before Ryan's meeting. He had asked her to tidy the study while he stepped out to buy flowers for the garden. While dusting the desk, she saw a stack of papers, business letters. And at the top of one was the name, Blake Enterprises. She frowned. She had seen that name before on a billboard downtown, on the news. Big company, huge money. Curious, she picked up one letter. It said, Ryan Blake, CEO of Blake Industries. Her heart stopped. CEO. Her mind went blank. The kind, humble man she thought was just an ordinary boss was one of the richest men in the city. Everything made sense now. The car, the roses, the way he could afford everything. Without blinking, she felt dizzy. He lied. Was she just a charity case? Was all this just guilt dressed as kindness? She dropped the letter and ran out of the house, tears burning her eyes. That evening, her phone buzzed with his message. "You left early. Is everything okay?" "No," she replied. "You lied to me." "What?" "You said you were just Ryan, not Ryan Blake, the billionaire. You made me feel like an equal, but you were playing with me." "Ella, I wasn't playing. I didn't tell you because I didn't want my name to matter more than my heart. I have an effort. Well, it does matter, because people like you live in another world, and people like me only clean it." "That's not true." "It is. Please stop contacting me." She turned off her phone. 2 days later, he showed up outside her apartment, standing in the rain, no umbrella, holding a small blue box. When she opened the door, her voice was cold. "You shouldn't be here." "I had to see you," he said quietly. "I can't let you walk away believing I lied." "You did lie." "No, I only hid what didn't matter. I just wanted to know what it's like to be loved for who I am, not what I own." Ella folded her arms. "You don't even know what love is." He smiled sadly. "Maybe not, but I know what peace feels like, and I only feel it when I'm with you." Her heart softened, but her pride was louder. "Go home, Ryan," he nodded slowly. "Before I go, please give this to Ava." He handed her the box. Inside was a tiny silver bracelet engraved with the word hope. "She reminds me of that word," he said softly. Tears filled her eyes, but she turned away. "Goodbye, Ryan," he whispered. "Goodbye, Ella," and walked into the rain. For weeks, she didn't hear from him, but every time she saw the bracelet on Ava's tiny wrist, her heart ached. She missed his laughter, his quiet care, the way he looked at her like she was seen for the first time, and she hated that she missed him. 3 months later, Ella received a letter in the mail. It wasn't a bill. It was an invitation printed on soft gold paper. "The Blake Foundation presents Project New Start, helping single mothers rebuild their lives. Special guest, Ella Roberts." Her hands trembled. "Me," she whispered. She almost didn't go, but that night she looked at Ava sleeping peacefully and thought maybe she owed it to him to say thank you. The event hall was filled with lights, flowers, and soft music. Ella felt small in her second-hand dress, holding Ava in her arms. At the front of the room stood Ryan, tall, calm, confident. When his eyes met hers, he paused mid-sentence, smiling softly. He spoke into the microphone. "Tonight, we launch Project New Start, a dream built from one small message that came to the wrong number, but the right heart." The crowd laughed gently. He continued. "I once met a woman who taught me that real strength isn't loud. It's a mother staying up at 2 a.m. because her baby is hungry and she refuses to give up. This foundation is dedicated to her and to every woman who fights silently every day." Ella's eyes filled with tears. When he finished, the audience clapped loudly. He stepped down, walked straight toward her, and smiled. "You came," he whispered. She smiled back through tears. "I almost didn't." "I'm glad you did." He looked at Ava and laughed softly. "She's grown so much." "She's heavier too," Ella said with a small smile. "I can help with that." He took the baby in his arms easily. Ava cooed happily. "She remembers you," Ella said quietly. "She better," he teased. "I bribed her with toys." They both laughed, the tension fading. Then Ryan looked at her seriously. "Ella, I didn't invite you just to thank you." She blinked. "Then why?" He took a deep breath. "Because I want you to be part of my life, not as someone I helped, but as someone I love." Her heart skipped. "Ryan," he interrupted softly. "You taught me more about love than anyone ever has. You showed me that happiness isn't built from money. It's built from moments, feeding a baby, sharing tea, laughing over spilled pancakes. That's what I want. Not luxury. You." Her eyes glistened. "And what if I say I'm scared?" He smiled. "Then I'll hold your hand until you're not." For a long moment, they just looked at each other. Then she whispered, "You still owe me tea." He chuckled. "Then I'll spend my life making it." He leaned in and kissed her soft, slow, full of truth. The crowd around them clapped again, not knowing they had just witnessed a love story born from one desperate text. A year later, Ella stood in front of a small white building with a bright sign, "Ava's Place, Hope for single mothers. Inside were dozens of women learning new skills, children laughing in a small play area, and Ryan holding Ava, who was now walking. "Look at her," he whispered proudly. "She's unstoppable like her mother." Ella smiled, resting her head on his shoulder. "We did it, Ryan. We really did." He kissed her forehead. "No, Ella, you did it. I just answered the message." The morning sun spilled softly through the curtains, wrapping the tiny living room in gold. The walls were decorated with balloons, pink, white, and gold. On the table stood a small cake with a candle shaped like the number 1, and right beside it, sitting in her high chair, was baby Ava, giggling at the sight of her reflection in the spoon. It was her first birthday, and it was the day her mother's life was about to change forever. Ella stood by the window, holding a ribbon between her fingers. Her heart was light but nervous. This wasn't the life she used to know. No fear, no emptiness, no hunger. Just laughter, warmth, and love she still struggled to believe was real. Behind her, Ryan was watching quietly, a soft smile curving his lips. He had fallen in love with her 100 different ways, through her laughter, through her strength, through the way she held their little girl as if the world would break without her. "You're staring again," she said, turning around. He chuckled. "Can you blame me?" She rolled her eyes, smiling shyly. "You're impossible." He took a slow step toward her, his voice gentle. "And you're beautiful." Her cheeks flushed. "Ryan, not now. People will be here soon." He grinned. "Then let me say it before the world arrives. You are the most beautiful thing I've ever seen." Ella Roberts. She shook her head, laughing softly, but her heart fluttered. She still couldn't believe how someone like him could love someone like her. By noon, the small apartment was alive with laughter. Friends from the foundation came with little gifts and food. Even Mrs. Johnson, her old boss, showed up, proudly saying, "Look at you now, Ella. You've come so far." There was music, laughter, and the smell of cake in the air. Eva clapped her hands as everyone sang, "Happy Birthday." Ryan helped her blow the candle, his face glowing with pride. When the cheers quieted, he whispered, "Make a wish, little one." "Oh." Eva just babbled something that sounded like Dada, and everyone laughed. Later, as the guests moved outside to enjoy the sunshine, Ryan quietly slipped away. Ella didn't notice at first. She was busy talking to the other mothers and wiping frosting off Ava's cheeks. But when she turned around, he was gone. "Where did he?" she began, but then she saw him through the open back door, standing in the rose garden. The sight stopped her heart. The late afternoon light bathed him in gold. The roses they had planted together months ago swayed gently in the breeze, full of color and life. He turned when he heard her step outside. "Come here," he said softly. "Ryan, what are you doing?" she asked, smiling nervously. "Just something I've been waiting to do for a long time." He held out his hand, and though she didn't understand, her heart knew something was coming. She placed her hand in his, and he led her to the center of the garden. The roses surrounded them, their sweet scent filling the air. The breeze played softly with her hair. Everything felt still, as if the world itself was holding its breath. Ryan turned to her, his eyes warm but serious. "Ella," he began, his voice low. "Do you remember the night you sent that message by mistake?" She smiled faintly. "How could I forget? I was tired, desperate, and ready to give up." He nodded, "And I was lonely, surrounded by everything I could ever buy, but feeling empty inside. Then I read your message, and for the first time in years, I felt something. I wanted to care again." He took a deep breath, his eyes softening. "I sent that first box because I didn't want your baby to go hungry. But I kept coming back because I didn't want to live in a world where your smile didn't exist." Tears filled her eyes. "Ryan," he stepped closer, his hand brushing her cheek. "You gave my life meaning again. You taught me that love isn't found in perfect places, it's found in broken ones, where two people decide to heal together." Ella's heart was pounding. "Why are you saying all this now?" she whispered. He smiled gently. "Because I want to make it forever." And then, slowly, he sank down on one knee. Her breath caught. The world blurred behind her as the man she loved, the man she never dreamed would be hers, looked up at her with the kindest eyes she had ever seen. "Ella Roberts," he said softly, You walked into my life with tired hands and a brave heart. You showed me that love is not charity, and kindness is not pity, it's choosing someone. Every day, even when it's hard. You taught me that happiness isn't bought, it's built. He opened a small velvet box. Inside was a simple silver ring, shining in the light like a secret promise. I don't want a castle or a crowd, he said. I just want mornings with you and Eva. I want laughter, shared tea, late night talks, and quiet love that never ends. Ella, will you marry me? Ella covered her mouth, tears spilling down her cheeks. For a moment, she couldn't speak. She looked at him, the man who had found her when she was invisible, the man who loved her not for what she had, but for who she was. Yes, she whispered. Then louder, through her tears. Yes, Ryan. 1,000 times yes. The guests, who had quietly gathered at the doorway, burst into cheers. Mrs. Johnson wiped her eyes. One of the mothers shouted, "Say it louder, girl." Ella laughed through her tears, and Ryan stood, slipping the ring onto her finger. It fit perfectly, like it had been waiting for this very moment. He pulled her close, resting his forehead against hers. "You've made me the happiest man alive. And you," she whispered, "made me believe in miracles." He kissed her softly, slowly, the kind of kiss that feels like forever. Around them, the roses swayed gently, their petals glowing in the fading sunlight. Eva clapped her tiny hands and squealed, as if she knew what had just happened. Ryan picked her up and whispered, "You're part of this promise too, princess." Eva giggled, tugging his nose, and Ella laughed through happy tears. That night, after everyone left, the three of them sat together under the stars in the garden. The air smelled of roses and new beginnings. "Do you know what I'm thinking?" Ella whispered. Ryan smiled. "What?" "That maybe. That wrong message was never wrong at all. Maybe it was heaven's way of bringing us home." He nodded, taking her hand. "Maybe love doesn't need directions. It just needs two hearts brave enough to answer." She smiled and leaned into his chest. "You answered." "And I always will," he whispered, kissing her forehead. A year later, the garden was bigger, brighter, fuller of roses than ever before. At the center stood a small white sign. The Eva Foundation, Love Found Here. It had become a haven for mothers like Ella, women who had once lost hope but found it again through kindness and courage. Every morning, Ryan kissed Ella before she left for work. Every evening, he returned home to her laughter and Eva's tiny footsteps running down the hallway. And sometimes, when the nights were quiet, they would sit together, hand in hand, remembering how it all began, one message sent to the wrong number that led to the right heart. Sometimes, love doesn't start with a smile or a hello. Sometimes, it starts with a mistake, a message sent in desperation, a stranger who cared enough to reply. And when two souls are meant to meet, no distance, no pain, no mistake can stop them. Because love always finds its way even through a wrong number. A message meant for love, where kindness became destiny, and a wrong text found the right forever. Moral lesson. Sometimes, love doesn't arrive with roses and promises. Sometimes, it comes from one small act of kindness. A message sent by mistake, a helping hand offered without reason. The universe doesn't make errors. It only delivers hearts to the right people, at the right time. Did you enjoy this story? Kindly let us know where you're watching from. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel. Thank you so much for watching.